can I hang on to it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's
Oh,
yours.
it's mine. Oh, cool.
It's yours.
Oh, compost. Love it. Okay, it is 4:30. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Jessica's not here yet, but she's probably coming. Okay. So. The mic's on? Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's see, it is 4:35. I will call the meeting to order. And it looks like all members are in attendance. We have Zelene, Jessica, Nancy, David, Bob, and Paula. So we are all here. We have our town planner, our director of building and land use, Mr. Coleman, and our able assistant, Lynn Wiesel. So. In terms of the agenda, any comments about the agenda? Any additions to the agenda? Okay, so hearing nothing, I will, we'll say the agenda is approved and we'll move on to our first order of business, and that's the approval of the April 11th meeting minutes. Can I have a motion? Bob? Are you? Okay, so Bob is moving, Nancy is seconding, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and no one's opposed? I'm sorry, what? Did you have something? Okay. So the meeting minutes are approved. Okay, great. So we have a lot on the agenda today. So moving into old business, last month, we talked about the Board of Education meeting that David, I, and Bob attended. David and I presented. Bob was there offering support and comments. We were well received. The update was I was, tasked with with following up with the superintendent. I have sent her an email. She hasn't responded to that email, but I indicated that we did want to meet with her at some point. I think what we were talking about last month was the notion of trying to get ahead of the next school year and think about some ways that we could collaborate with them, based on the different suggestions and opportunities we presented at the meeting. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer and then nudge her again because we're coming up on the end of the school year. And I know there has been a lot of activity in terms of school events. I did forward to her an email that Bob sent me about a webinar with Safe Ways to Schools. And she immediately responded to that and is sharing that, I think, with, is it Jason Teitelbaum, I think, their transportation person. So I got a quick response on that, and she made sure that he was aware of that particular webinar, which is about getting some grant funding to do these kinds of things. So that's the update in terms of my correspondence. There are comments, questions, suggestions? David?
Do we know anything about the search for the superintendent? Is she just going to be the superintendent or?
What I know is that the search committee, that they have, I think, hired the search firm and they've started the process. That's what I know. Yeah. I will just offer an observation. I came in at the tail end of the annual meeting, the annual town meeting, because I was at a different meeting, so I missed the action. But I stopped by a town hall and it was really refreshing because most of the Board of Education was here. And, you know, I actually think they went out to dinner together after, you know, council, most of the council and the Board of Ed, which I think was really, you know, a good thing to see in terms of collaboration. So, yeah, you felt the earth shake? No, it was a good thing, actually. Were you there? Yeah, but that's very positive. Next update in terms of old business. One of the things we talked about doing as part of our, you know, list of priorities, and that, you know, where we landed on that in terms of a guiding document is in the packet. We want to be doing kind of educational outreach programs, and the mosquito, you know, mosquito mitigation, buckets of doom was something we actually talked about last fall. I will follow up with Dave Malesko because, you know, we're prepared to do that as part of the summer camp program. I think I mentioned that last time. And I have been in touch with the library who wants to do it, wants to offer a more of an adult program via Zoom, which will be interesting. But we have a date, July 10th, and I think the time is 4 p.m. So I am going to follow up with Laura Palandre, who is very interested in it. And, you know, I've been in touch with her once, and she is very, you know, I think interested in, you know, willing to work on planning it and participating in it. And if there are other folks that would like to be involved, I welcome the participation. I mean, I think that takes two forms: following up with Rachel at the library and doing the planning around that, following up with Dave and the leisure services staff, which will be working on designing the summer camp activities around this, and also working with the government relations and strategic communications department. Yeah, if I got that right. I know, it's basically re-pushing the information out. I did talk about this at my report out to the Public Health, Safety, and Environment Subcommittee meeting on Tuesday. And the council was very appreciative. Councilor Mahan actually was very complimentary that CC was following through, because we had represented that we would do that last fall. So council is happy that we're doing something practical for the community here.
I'd be happy to work with the library. I've done that before,
Great, okay,
and I will be here.
super. Anyone else interested, just let me know, because
I can
you know,
support.
you want to participate too? Great. Okay, so Jessica and Nancy. Great. So Jessica, are you interested more in the library program, the thing for the summer camp? One or both?
Yeah, I'd be interested in doing both. I don't know exactly what the summer camp would look like, but I have a lot of experience running summer camps, actually. I used to do that in previous jobs that I had. So I would love to do that if my schedule can accommodate it. I would just have to work some things out there, but I'm open to anything.
That's great, because I think what Dave Malesko envisioned, and I'm drawing a blank, and I should know the staff's name, because Belinda, I think. Melissa, thank you. It's Melissa in the Leisure Services Department. He was going to kind of have her organizing and kind of working on planning the activity. And and fortunately, you know, he's prepared because he has a summer camp budget to purchase supplies. And the idea is to have the bucket decoration, you know, have buckets, have the kids decorate the buckets, you know, do the you know, to have that one day, have an activity of, you know, they want to make enough buckets so that each child can bring a bucket home, but they also want to make enough buckets so that we can try them on the, you know, at summer concerts, kind of out at the recreational fields behind 330 Park, to just see how well it works and see if we can kind of get this, going. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a real fun activity. So excellent. Okay, very good. Do you want to say anything else?
I was just gonna say that's beaucoup of buckets, but,
Boku buckets.
but I think in some case, maybe with the library program, we can tie in the information that Jess put together on Yellow Jackets, Hornets, Wasps too. July is a good time for that.
Yep.
See how long, since they're not actually making the buckets on the library program per se.
Right, and I think we need to think about how we collectively need to think about working with the librarians, like how they would structure that. Maybe it's a sign up for this program. The idea is to, maybe suggest to people what's involved in putting together a kit for it. But we also want to be providing some information about why this is better than spraying. That's the whole point. So we need to get that piece of it into the mix. So excellent. And in terms of the Yellow Jacket suggestion, as far as getting that into play too, that really is consistent with Jessica's recommendation about taking a proactive approach at the point in the season where maybe you can prevent some nest sites from being established. So yeah, it makes sense. Go ahead, David.
So what are the practical, actual things that would be done for the Yellow Jackets?
The practical things that would be done, I think, is more on the town side. As the concern here, the concern originally was we have this anti-littering campaign we're launching. There's both Dave Malesko and Dan Carter, I think, are looking at ways to improve trash receptacles, get better trash receptacles. The concern that was raised was you have these events and in the fall season, you get the Yellow Jackets. So I think besides trying to put maybe information out there, maybe through the town's website, can the town in those places where there are going to be collections of people and activity do some of the preventive measures up front as far as, plugging holes and doing things like that where Yellow Jackets would establish nest. These are some of the recommendations that Jessica talked about last month. But in order for them to be implemented, we need to kind of make sure that people have the information. I did send that piece out to the people that are on this anti-littering campaign. It's just that group has not met yet again. So
this is more what individuals would do for Yellow Jackets rather than what could be done at town events to avoid the concern or the inconvenience of Yellow Jackets.
I think it's both.
I think it's both. Yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
I think it's both because we're talking about working with leisure services around some practices and some preparation. But as far as the library part would be concerned, if we're teaching people online virtually what a mosquito dunks do, we can also talk about how to, keep your yard a little safer from nests.
Right.
What to watch out for. I mean, sometimes people don't.
I guess I'm just missing the actual things that would be done during the summer events when this could be a problem.
Well, for that,
The town events.
I think we also need to know a little bit more about what their current practices are. Like one of the big recommendations was like washing garbage cans and things like that. I have no idea if those types of things are happening now or what like the trash situation is like at some of those events. But I think taking some measures like that would be things that they can do, and where you position those garbages too, people considering that they're away from crowds and off in the periphery kind of. And and potentially also hanging some traps and things like that, opposed to spraying. Maybe putting those like in a tree above where the garbage receptacles are could be a good place to put them there.
I think it would be helpful for Jessica to be included in a conversation with Dave Malesko and Dan Carter, kind of before the season gets up and running. Yeah. So,
I had another suggestion for the library thing. I don't know if this might make the topic a little bit too expansive, but I notice a lot of the spraying signs are mosquitoes and ticks, right? When people putting things in their yards that they have sprayed. It's both of those. So potentially we can talk about ticks as well and things that you can do to help combat ticks in your yard and, safe options there too. I know that's a big concern for a lot of people.
Huge.
okay, so what we will do as a follow-up is obviously we need to meet offline at a time that's convenient and just sort of get this all going as far as shaping the program and, getting some details set. But, yep, it's Rachel at the library. Yep. And I just want to acknowledge that Counselor Joe Merritt just joined us. And this is the CEC meeting. I assume this is where you want to be? Okay, excellent. If you're welcome to come up and join us, please. Yeah, Counselor Merritt has had a long history with the CEC, and I know he for years attended meetings and was a regular, so it's really wonderful to see him here. So thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Do you know everybody? Okay. So, yeah, Zelene Sandler is online. Jessica White, who's one of our newer members, is online, and Claudia Gordiak. And yeah, that's it. And here's Lynn. So, okay, so are we good on, yep, so are we good on the mosquito mitigation, mosquito dunks, and doing some programming? Great. Okay. Next old business item, I just want to give you a quick update. Tree City USA application process. We talked last month about how the council has wisely funded, put some funding in place to support Bloomfield becoming a Tree City USA community. And what we are doing at the moment, when I say we, I'm talking about me having had a meeting with Dave Malesko and Dan Carter, and John Coleman, actually, to just talk about what the required elements are and the standards that have to be satisfied to get the designation. The good news is, two things. Good news is there are 4 requirements. You have to have a department or board that kind of is responsible for trees. You have to have the town commitment in terms of funding, staff time, that kind of thing. $2 per capita at a minimum to support, to support tree care, tree work in town. You have to have an Arbor Day observance and a proclamation, which we did. And what am I forgetting? Yeah, thank you very much, David. You have to have an ordinance. What we have in place currently for a tree ordinance is we will satisfy the requirement. We may want to strengthen it in time, but we should be good to go according to the state forester who I talked to. And really the thing at this point is to put together a high-level flexible plan as to what kinds of activities we'll be doing concerning our trees. And and I'm going to draw a blank, help me. The government administration subcommittee of the council. I'm looking at Councilor Mira.
Governance, Economic Development, and
The mayor's committee.
the Mayor's Committee.
Right. Yeah. So we were tasked with coming up with kind of a, at least a high level plan and timeline in terms of getting designated. And so we've had one meeting just to start pulling that together. That subcommittee meeting got canceled and hasn't been rescheduled yet, but we would be presenting to that. And John, do you have anything to add?
Only thing I would add is that your chairman is being very modest. She is really leading this cause, and we, the staff, are the supporting cast,
Well,
which we are very delighted to do, but I would not want to underestimate the leadership that is being provided by Paula.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. One thing we are really trying to do collectively is take really a 2-year view of this, because our budget is a fiscal year budget from July to June. Certification and recertification is on a calendar year basis. So what we're doing is we're looking at a plan where we're going to position ourselves for calendar years 2024 and 2025.
Be certified hopefully in January.
Yep. So,
So to clarify, which department or board is the one that has the responsibility?
okay.
Have we determined that?
So, yeah, well, we will have a recommendation, okay? The recommendation is going to be that because DPW right now is tasked with kind of tree warden services, the quote board, it's really more the people that will be responsible in the town would be Dan Carter, Bart Merritt Ritson, Mike Castonguay. They are the assistant tree wardens, okay, deputy tree wardens, and also Dave Malesko, because Dave is doing so much work with the Trees for Bloomfield committee. And that Trees for Bloomfield will continue what it's doing in an advisory capacity. If you look at the Arbor Day Foundation kind of description and, what they expect in terms of a tree board, which you may think of Trees for Bloomfield as, it's more like a tree commission that is formally appointed by the council. And our thought is that what we have is working pretty effectively now. And the council has many boards and commissions to deal with without, in my opinion, creating a new one formally, with people being appointed and having to reappoint and so forth. So questions or comments?
So a couple
David.
questions. Since the money that has been allocated becomes available, I guess, in July, is that correct? And if that's a 2-year project, that means $25,000 are available in July. That could be very helpful in keeping the activity of what's happening with Trees for Bloomfield extending into the fall and the planting. I just want to be sure I'm correct in understanding that is correct.
So as soon as we enter, and Councilor Merrick can opine on this too, as well as John, as soon as we get into the new fiscal year, there's money that's budgeted that can be used throughout the fiscal year.
What department has the money?
I believe
DW.
it's DPW. Yeah, it's DPW. Yeah.
So maybe I could ask the question more directly. Let's say the plan this year was to plant 51 trees. And the initial plan was to plant them on private property. Let's say the money needed to do that required $10,000, just to pick a number. I don't know how much it will require, but let's just say that. My understanding would be that of the $25,000 available in July, 10,000 could, if everyone agreed, be used in that direction. Is that a fair statement?
My understanding is it's a fair statement because people have contacted the Arbor Day Foundation and asked the question whether using town funds to plant on private property would be allowed. I think a decision that the town needs to make is whether it wants to use taxpayer money to be planting trees on private property. Up to this point, we've used grant funding. We've used grant funding with some supplemental, gap funding provided by the town. I think the point is the need to be flexible. My understanding is Doncaster Foundation awarded a $3,000 grant to Trees for Bloomfield recently. So that money is available. And this large grant that was submitted to the state, the town, the Trees for Bloomfield is supposed to be getting an indication by May 29th whether or not some of those funds will be forthcoming. So as I stressed in the Trees for Bloomfield meeting we had the other day, which is the working group, we need to be flexible. Is that a possibility? Yes, it is. But the idea is to lay out kind of all the different kinds of projects we might want to do. Personally, and this is me, it's like, and I just can offer an opinion. It's not my decision. Personally, I know that the departments for years have wanted to do some work on the town's trees and haven't had money to do it. There are some planting needs at the golf course. There's a plan to plant trees on the town green, 20 trees, never been implemented. No funding. I don't think there was ever funding available for it. So we have a planting plan on the town green. We have, I think, a desire for Rockwell. And in addition to that, I know one of the projects that was put in and hopefully will get funded from this grant is the getting forest stewardship plans for the large, basically for all the town-owned property. And so that's real beneficial because, and hopefully we'll get funded. And I think there's potentially separate grant funding available in the fall. And actually, I'm addressing this to David because I think you know that.
No, I don't know that. And the grant that's submitted, which is an exciting grant, is really federal money. And Bloomfield does not qualify for the criteria listed in that grant application, but we were encouraged to submit anyway.
Right.
Does that sound a little strange? Yes, it does, but that's what happened.
Yeah, which I think the fact that we were encouraged is positive because I think there's a chance that we'll get some of it, I think. I don't know, we'll see. The point being, David, the point being that there's a need for flexibility, and to the Tree for Bloomfield committee that's kind of working on the grants, David's a part of that. I wasn't this go round. One member has kind of made the point that there may be some other small grant funding opportunities available, but we don't want to apply for them collectively at this point until we know which things will come through. So that's why I just, it's like, let's keep things as open and flexible. We will have plenty of ways to spend the money. That's the point, I think.
Right, and
Yeah.
that brings me to the second question. The award of being a tree city is terrific and a good goal and has to be renewed every year.
Correct.
And that then requires that amount of money to each year. I don't know if that's the case.
No, it's not.
So it's a one time when the 2,000 per capita has to be.
No. Okay,
So then I'm going to ask it this way. There are other ways that it can be funded,
correct.
and that includes the value of the work put in by volunteers, for instance.
Correct, but it needs to be on certain types of projects, correct? So, may I just say something for the benefit of the group? So there is basically a sheet that indicates all the types of eligible expenses that can be counted. And there's a very, it's like it's an exhibit that's on the Arbor Day Foundation website. And there's a very simple tracking sheet that to keep track of like the expenses, things like that, that Dan Carter was comfortable using. And so part of what this year is about, I think, our first year here, in terms of sort of doing some analysis, we will be able to, we'll get to the $44,000 minimum that's required between cash expenditures as well as some time spent. And we'll have a good idea of, on a kind of on an ongoing, run rate basis, the kinds of activities that our departments do that are eligible. And so, yes, and I'm looking at Councilor Merritt now, we will be, collectively lobbying probably for money in the next year, the next budget, but we're not going to need, I don't think we're going to need 50, we needed a good chunk to kind of seed money and really get us established and get going. Because there's been a lot of deferred maintenance and a lot of things that haven't been done over the past, decade. Go ahead.
I'm not sure this is on. Is this on?
Yep.
Or is, we are in for real problems starting next year with taxes. And because of revaluation. And the latest report as of yesterday, I think it was, there's going to be a drastic shift over the tax burden going to the homeowner. And my experience back in the 80s and well, mostly in the 90s, you start having tax, what do they call them, committees, taxpayer committees, and they become very strong. And so we're in for some fiscally tight things. I was, after this year, a bigger tax increase because I said, this is going to be the last one you have for a while, but I didn't get it. So I just think you need to be aware that everybody needs to be aware that it's just going to be very tough to get money, new money. So it's a good thing you got this started now. So there'll be some kind of
Right.
a basis for it. So,
And all the more reason to sort of put a 2-year plan together,
yes.
because we should be able to use this to really position ourselves for this year and next year.
Yes.
So, okay, I guess we've been put on notice. Don't expect it to happen again potentially, right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you might be able to continue something because it's
Yeah.
already in place.
But yeah, we need to get it kind of up and running, and that's the point.
Accelerate it.
Right. No, it's really what we need to jumpstart it. It really is. And I will just comment that Trees for Bloomfield and kind of the work that we've done for the past 3 years, CC, BBC, all our volunteers, help of town staff. That got us a lot done to position us. And even though the ordinance, for example, that we talk about, or that the Arbor Day Foundation is referencing, is more around municipal trees, the fact that we have a new ordinance that TPZ passed, that talks about, if you're pulling a permit and you're taking out big trees, you need to be replacing those trees or doing something about, setting,
Do we
yeah,
have any laws to do that?
pardon me?
Do we have any laws that require that when somebody takes out trees?
Yeah, we passed some zoning regulations that
Oh, that's good.
require.
Yeah, just happened.
You know, if you hit a threshold.
Yeah.
You have to tell us what trees you're taking out, and if you do take them out, they have to be replaced either on site or a location that is selected by the town.
That's good.
Yeah.
Did I say something else about?
Please, yep.
Uh, I was thinking one of the needs, when the bushes were put up along the bike path, present section of the Bay Bike Path, they were supposed to be bushes that grew up and by mistake, and they were labeled wrong, so I know it wasn't the engineer's fault, but they're bushes that grow sideways. So there, very few of them are over 2 feet high.
Yep.
And it would be great. We do have some trees along there, but they're trees that only grow because of the wires, electric wires. You can only have trees that grow a certain height under wires. And that's true, of course, in any right of way which has electric wires, which is many of them. So you're probably going to face this other places. So it'd be good to know what types of trees are best to only grow a certain height for those kind of locations.
Thank you for that comment. And I do think part of this stewardship plan that we would be, hopefully putting together for all of the municipal property would be getting at some of that. Like, where are there opportunities to
Bike
plant?
path
What should we
certainly
do?
Opportunities.
Okay, good.
Eversource has a list of the appropriate trees that can be planted that won't grow into their wires. Just a comment.
Okay. So I think, just to recap, and I want to make sure everyone's had an opportunity to jump in. I think the point here is we need to try to stay flexible in terms of the options we present until more things shake out in terms of, I'm hoping some of this grant funding will come through and we'll know by the end of the month, which would be fabulous. Okay, so. And stay tuned, because hopefully the subcommittee meeting will be rescheduled soon, and, we'll get more input from the council on that.
The subcommittee?
Governance,
There's some
governance, economic development, and I don't remember
it's a new name.
Yeah.
It's not what-
chaired by the mayor.
Yeah. So, all right. Everyone online okay at this point? Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, planning and zoning regulation and incentives to promote installation of renewable energy on or at new developments. This was brought up at the last meeting, and I think the comment, Bob, you can jump in, but I think the idea was, John, to do some, do a little bit of brainstorming around what kinds of things could be used to incentivize developers.
And I have not.
Okay.
I apologize. I'd like to get through the POCD with the commission, which I think would establish hopefully some of the ground rules for this. But I have, I apologize, but I did not get to this in
Mhm.
between meetings. I'll try to be more productive between now and the next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just say, I'm going to leave it on the agenda, we'll just leave it on the agenda so that we'll get to it. Okay? You good, or do you want to say something? You, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, one way is requiring them through regulations which may or may not be legal.
Right.
But another.
Up to.
Here.
Mike. Talk to the mic.
Without the microphone.
Yeah. Yep.
The question is, we don't know yet if it's legal to require solar development. But another thought is if it's also legal to possibly give tax abatement on the additional cost, say a building's going in and they price geothermal and it's going to cost them 3 times as much for the heating system. Now, if that's also taxed, that's, they may be in a position that's not going to pay them, but it would seem to be appropriate to give them a tax abatement that would negate those extra taxes for 10 years or even the life of the system. Because we'd only get so much taxes from say, gas heating. So why should we get a whole lot more when they try to do something environmentally favorable?
Counselor?
Yeah, I agree with you. We do have some tax abatement on the books for solar installations, but I don't remember exactly what they are, whether they're for businesses or residential. I'm not sure, but I just don't remember.
I think a short conversation with the assessor. If you put solar on your roof as a home, you don't get
Don't get a bump. Yeah.
assessment, but I think industrially you may.
Yeah. Well, that was a big question. In fact, we end up taxing people and then we gave their money back. I don't remember that whole story, but that was very embarrassing. But and it was something our last attorney did. Anyway, but I have a pet project which I actually talked to John about back some, and I've talked to your good husband and he isn't too enthusiastic. But I just don't see why. There's 44 acres right near me of old tobacco land that's been for sale. It's flat, treeless mostly, and it's flat, and it's been for sale for over 50 years unsuccessfully. And it's in an area where the neighborhood wouldn't mind at all having solar panels there. Much prefer solar panels to just about anything else. Certainly some commercial building, and we don't give any effort to support people trying to do that. And I think you're absolutely right. And so that it just seems to me like a no-brainer, but I don't know what the legislature just passed some law about that, but I just wish we had some incentives. I've got to call the people that came out and looked at it and said, yeah, this would be a good place for them. And I mean, 44 acres is a lot of land, and you get a lot of solar panels on that, and you create a lot of energy. So just think it would be a good idea. But there apparently is no plan to even have that energy go to Bloomfield. So, I mean, but if we could probably do something like that. Anyway. Yeah, that's.
Solar land banking, and then at the end of 25 years, you again can decide what you want to use it for, be it development or farmland. One possibility is that at the end of the use of solar, that there be development rights be restricted. Heard that Simsbury had a big discussion over and the end of that solar development. It'd be the town's property.
Yeah. Does anyone else? Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Town provided the land for it? Or the town took
No,
over the
I
land?
don't think so.
They get it at the end of the deal.
Oh, I see.
The landowner is getting, a pretty good amount releasing the land. And after the solar.
Can't hear you.
I think there's a mic issue. We're not hearing anything from, well, at least not from Bob.
Soft spoken. Do you hear me?
Now.
It's better.
Oh, okay, it was just off.
Yeah.
You want me to repeat?
No. Only because of time constraints. I mean, basically the gist of the conversation is, what are the ways we can structure and I'm looking to John because it looks like he's moving his mic, are there ways we can structure incentives, be it tax abatements, whatever, so that people would invest in these things and not be penalized for doing so by paying higher taxes than they would over fossil fuel type situations.
And we will look at that.
Right. And so, basically we were kind of recapping things we talked about last month. Hang on one second. But I do want, only because you gave me an opening, Counselor. One of the things I have with me, because I want to talk about it when we come to new business, is the Economic Development Commission and CEC 3 years ago, 2020, 2021, kind of encouraged the council to establish a policy on large-scale solar. And the things that you were talking about in terms of encouraging the town to, but you got to have capacity in terms of town staff time, trying to encourage us to look at where we'd like what sections of town, what places are really suitable for large scale solar, so that we can hopefully have more input and say, because a lot of the bigger things are obviously siting council driven. So we have the policy, the council passed it unanimously in April of 2021. I found a copy of it. So I think that was something I wanted to bring to John's attention, to look at, because we do have, some things that we've done in years past. Did you want to say something else? Get close to the mic.
I think this is also something that may be beneficial to the rest of the plan of conservation development.
Yes.
Without having a goal to,
Yes.
solar land banking and
Yes.
any land that we're not sure what we want in the future. Put
Yes.
solar on it because you can decide in the
Well,
future.
well, you and I don't agree on that point of putting it everywhere and anywhere. But that's fine. We can have constructive conversations. But that's the whole point. We need to articulate some of these things in the POCD. We need to talk about, the energy plan. We need to talk about all kinds of things. And that's the whole point of getting a new POCD. Yeah.
You don't have to be specific in the POC. You say in large.
Yeah.
Solar.
We did develop, the EDC took the leadership role on that, and CC was invited to kind of jump in. And the council did establish a good policy with some guidelines.
But no incentives.
No incentives. I think it was actually aimed at the larger solar installations that are over what, 1 megawatt? Is it 1 megawatt or 2 megawatts when you get the siting council?
I think what I'm talking about might be,
I think it's 1.
the tobacco companies.
Yeah.
Whatever they're called now.
Right. Yeah, I think anything over 1 megawatt, the siting council jumps in. So like,
This is over 1 megawatt, I think.
well, it probably would be, yeah. But like the Board of Education installation, my understanding is what went in there for the community solar is, I think it was actually structured as like 2 separate things that were each under 1 megawatt to kind of make it work. So the whole point of the policy, the solar policy, was kind of a defensive posture, because, if the siting council has the authority, we have a lot less authority, but we can signal the town's desires by at least having a council policy.
So that policy is to keep big things from happening.
No, it's more just to have, it's more just to be able to signal where we'd like those things to happen. It's eminently reasonable, and you voted for it.
I'm sure I did.
Yeah. So it must have been good. You voted for it.
I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Claudia. Go ahead.
Hi, the quick point I'd like to make, or really a question, Paula. Would CEC consider having a subcommittee for renewable energy in town that would be able to research and promote the idea. Because I think if it comes up to in the middle of a busy meeting, we tend to rush by. And whereas the subcommittee could come back with findings and so forth, take the responsibility.
I think if any subgroup, I think if any members of CEC are interested and want to loosely form and kind of do some research to bring back to the committee for discussion, we just need to be mindful of public meeting notices and rules and make sure we're having our discussions in public.
And we have more committees than we need already. Well, we may need them. But there is a great feeling that we have too many committees
right.
already, so.
Right, but the point being, if Claudia and Bob want to get together
Sure,
and
go for it.
do some work and set up, a time to talk about this, that's fine. That's good. And I mean, I'm going to move us along at this point because, it's a worthy topic of discussion. I think the point about the POCD and kind of making sure that it's wrapped into that is really important. And I know the TPZ is looking at the POCD now. Yeah, in a special meeting. Okay. So, I'm gonna just very quickly go to Shred Day, which was last Saturday. I'm waiting to get the data, in terms of the amount of material that was shredded. I know on the small electronics recycling, I did get, an email on that, so I'm going to look at it compared to past events. Over 200 pounds of batteries. Kevin Goff was helping out, and he actually took all of the batteries that have been deposited here at town, because we have recycling receptacles, kind of cleaned out town hall, brought them over, and there are over 200 pounds of batteries between what residents brought in and what has been deposited here. Yeah, little batteries. Yeah. We're not talking car batteries. You can take car batteries apparently to Midas and they will give you $5. And I say that only because somebody stopped by and that's what ended up happening. Yep. So.
It'd be good to put that in a notice somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I was,
You're right. It would be good to try that as part of our education is kind of getting that out.
we put something out with where all recyclers go.
Right. And we actually have Lynn's put together for us, a little summary of recycling do's and don'ts, and we can make sure that we've got the car battery thing addressed. Yep. Nancy?
Can't remember if I already gave this information to you, Lynn, but DEP on its website has a section, I think it's under like, how do I? And then you click on that and then it says dispose of, and it's got a huge list. May not be the most up to date. I don't know how they're keeping it, but all kinds of places you can take something if you want to. Not always convenient, but at least you know what to do with something.
Is it on? Did you turn it off? Do you want to say something?
It had gone off again. I didn't know.
Okay.
Just wanted to be prepared, that's all.
You want to be prepared, okay? It's always good to be prepared. The one comment, I'm hoping to have the information from File Shred next month in terms of how much they processed. My sense is it's less than the last 2 times. We've been having it twice a year with 2 trucks, which I think has finally kind of caught up with pent-up demand. So one of the things I want us to think about is, we'll continue with the 2 events a year, but maybe we have 2 trucks one time, 1 truck the other, and when we have the 1 truck, we have the bigger truck, because there's a bigger truck and a smaller truck. Because I don't want half empty trucks when the money that we have could be allocated for other projects for the town. But we'll look at that. We need to look at the data and see if that's really the case. It's just an impression I have. Okay, is that good? Everyone good on that?
Yeah, it looked like
Yeah, thank
there
you.
would be one full truck if you combined the two trucks from last Saturday. One was a 40 bin, one was a 30 bin
Right.
truck. If you had one 40 bin truck, you would have been fine. And I think we just go forward with one 40 bin truck.
Yeah. So assuming the data sort of, bears out, that would be what I would recommend trying in the fall. And then we'll see, we'll see how we do. But we'll have the data next month, hopefully. Okay. Oh, and then finally, we talked about some definite CEC educational programs we want to do. Zelene is is online here. We were talking about a Dark Skies program. Marjorie Winters had presented it. Zelene highly recommended it.
It's
And-
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and Zelene is going to follow up with Marjorie. She hasn't done that yet. That one would probably involve a small stipend, because Marjorie is the assistant executive director or assistant director at Roaring Brook.
Right.
Yeah, so usually a small stipend. Her programs are very good. Zelene, what do you think a good time of year to do that is, since you're the bird person?
Well, it would have been good to do it right now because the migration is in full swing. And one of the things that happens with the migration is that the birds get confused by the lighting. They migrate at night, and sometimes they'll get caught up in strong light, like when they do the 9/11 memorial in New York, and they have those lights coming up. The birds just keep flying around and around in those lights until they just drop. They get exhausted. So anyway, now they try to do something to alleviate that. But it's something that we all can be aware of and that we can all help with. It's not just the birds, it's animals, insects, and even how it affects us as humans, having too much light at night. So the program was really wonderful, and I'm hoping, I want to talk to her about it. It doesn't really matter, since we're not going to do it for migration. I mean, this would be too soon to ask her, but possibly in the fall sometime, because there's another migration that will be taking place in the fall.
Yeah,
I don't know if this would be a presentation that would happen at the library or some other venue. I don't know, but it was excellent.
Would September, I mean, birds start in August, right? August, September,
Those are
October,
the
November?
shorebirds. I would say September probably. That's when the hawks migrate. There's like a steady stream of birds all during fall. So I think September would probably be a good month if she's available. And even October.
So can you check with her on September and October dates?
Okay.
And then if you find out about her availability, then we can figure out venue. Is this something we do at the library? It would need to be a virtual program, I think, if we did that. If we did something kind of in person, it's more likely to be 330 Park. But find out what her availability is in September, October. And then you're going to do bobolinks, right?
I am.
Yes, you are. You volunteered to next month. You said, well, I can do bobolinks, which you can.
Well, I'm not sure. I can do bobolinks.
Yep.
I haven't been out to see if they have arrived or even if they're going to arrive at our farm this year.
So would that be a better program to do in the late winter, early spring? Because the other thing we could do potentially is couple an educational program about them and then, do some kind of guided walk.
Well, every year up until last year, when I complained about our farm cutting, ruining the habitat, we always had something on Trails Day. And we would walk up the hill to see the bobolinks. And I would always give a little presentation to people about the bobolinks, and we would look for them. But as you know, our farm, in their infinite wisdom, decided to mow the habitat. So there were no more bobolinks there. And they also did not ask me to participate in the Trails Day. Not sure. Well, maybe they knew that I was pretty upset about the whole thing. That would have been the best, the best way to deal with it would be to have a walk of the Bobolink Hill. And this is the time to do it, like in the next couple of weeks in May. If it's just a question of an informational program, that could be any time.
How about the possibility of doing this as a spring program next year, an informational program? But if our farm isn't a possibility, how about doing it at Seabury?
We could do it at Seabury.
Because they have bobolinks at Seabury. I mean,
They have
I have,
bobolinks at Seabury still. I haven't
Yeah.
been over there, but I'm pretty sure they do. And
they did last year, I know.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, Seabury is very conscious of the environment for birds. And they have beautiful native grasslands that they
Right.
don't mow at the time when the bobolinks are there. So,
Right.
they're doing good. The only other place I can think where you'd find them would not be the old community gardens. But there's not a lot of them there the last time I checked.
Okay, well, why don't we plan on, we'll have another we can have a further conversation. Maybe we focus on, seeing about Marjorie for the migration, the dark
Okay.
skies. We'll plan we'll plan ahead, and we'll think about doing kind of a combination program on the bobolinks because they're a state listed bird. We talked about the fact that they're tipping point birds. 50% of the population in North America has been lost in the last 50 years, and they expect another 50% to be gone by 2050.
Yeah, that's a depressing news.
It's depressing, that was in the, and we have 3 sites in Bloomfield where they have nested. Joe?
I remember back maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15, you put forward and I was involved in it, a policy of not mowing town roadsides during, I think it was August. So July and August. So for the bobolinks, is that still still happening? Do they still have no mows
Well,
August and September for roadside mowing for?
well, bobolinks, that wouldn't affect the bobolinks.
Where was it we had the no mow thing then?
Well, bobolinks are in grassland habitats, so
Yeah.
it would have been, and it's very specific, so it would have been our farm, the back of Seabury.
Yeah, well,
And
that would,
and also on Philly Street, which is no more because there's now a couple of big houses up there.
Right.
They sold the property.
on the
so-
flood control areas, we
Right,
used to
that's
mow
it.
those. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we still don't mow that during.
That's actually very well managed now because the state negotiated with Bloomfield the lease.
Yep.
And, they kicked the airfield people out. Actually, and the reason they did that is
It flew
because
away.
it flew away. DEP was very keen on managing that better for the grassland birds. And so the town is very much in sync with DEP in terms of proper mowing.
Yeah, the airfield.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
The use of the airfield expired from
Yeah.
what I understand.
Yes, it did.
That's, they weren't kicked out. They just.
It expired and
They gave them so many years.
the town had a lease, a 50-year lease that expired. The town renegotiated the lease and kind of reconfigured a little bit what it was leasing. And the airfield people, the airplane people had sort of a side agreement and that wasn't renewed. And they were given time to move on. Yeah, which they did. Yeah.
I forgot to mention Sam Wheeler Reed Park, which is a really good spot to see bobolinks. And there've been continuing efforts from various groups to try and use that field there for different purposes, going way back when I think Dave Malesko wanted to pave it and put in ball fields. And that's one of the best other than Seabury, that's probably the best place to see bobolinks. And they don't mow. I think they have an agreement that's part of the town agreement.
Right.
They don't mow during the time the bobolinks are there.
Right. Yeah, and I think I think people have gotten the memo on Sam Wheeler Reed Park, in terms of the habitat. My
Yeah.
understanding is recently the town was approached about doing something there and they were just told no.
Yeah.
So which is a good thing.
That's been very good. That's been very,
Okay,
very good.
so it looks like Bob wants to say something and then I'm going to move us on to new business.
Okay.
The grass along the 2 miles of rail trail is a factor or not? Is that a possible?
Not
Well, it's only probably about 3/4 of a mile that has grass on the sides.
for pollinators, it would be.
Yes.
For pollinators, it would be, and that's important, to sort of be mindful of the pollinators as well. I mean,
I
but,
think it
yeah,
gets mowed very
yeah.
much anyway.
right, exactly. So just to summarize, we'll think about the next spring for the bobolinks, simply because then we can maybe do a more robust program and do a viewing, which I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that'll get people appreciating it. And the one other thing I wanted to just mention, and we'll talk more about it next time, the whole thing about land banking, so, solar is land banking, how to go about doing that, what areas are more environmentally sensitive and what things do you have to think about. I know a woman named Denise Savageau who has a lot of expertise in this, and I serve on another board with her, and she said she'd be very happy to come in and talk to us. And I don't know whether we want to just do that as a CEC kind of meeting, but I think it would be a good discussion. And, she could bring some more kind of scientific information around kind of proper ways to do things and what kinds of considerations you have to think about in terms of soil compaction. If you're going to be doing leases and you want to go back to agricultural, like New York does things where you have to do actual soil banking so that the topsoil doesn't get stripped off, things like that. So she said she'd be very willing to talk to us. So I just wanted to offer that up to the committee. Okay. So if people are interested in that, I will see about Denise coming in. Okay, new business. I'm looking at John. The first topic here is a proposed project on Terriffill Road.
It appears that our town has become a preferred area for large battery backup storage facilities. We have one that is going through the permitting process now off of Toby Road, and most of these are controlled by the siting council, and the town has limited ability to have A, input, and B, control over both location and then the location itself. And then we're pursuing that now with the town council, with the town attorney, to see if we can see what our authority really is. But anyway, we have one that's going through now on Toby Road through the permitting process. We have received formal notice that a second one is being proposed off of Savin Road. That's the road that goes between Park Ave and Cottage Grove. It actually has a Cottage Grove Road address, all those parcels down in there, but it's down basically opposite where the school bus storage area is, also in an industrial zone. Those two locations are not inappropriate for large-scale battery storage facilities. They're in industrial zones and, are generally compatible from a use point of view. The third one, which we've been informed of and the applicant wants to come speak with the town, but has not formally started the process yet, is the one that concerns us. And this is a large battery storage facility proposed on Terriffill Road, 24 Terriffill Road, which is the piece of open farmland just west of Doncaster Road on the north side of the street. Now, if you go west of Doncaster Road, you have the historic inn on your left, and then you have the historic farmhouse on your right, and then you have that big open field that rises up to the ridge. That's where they want to put this large storage facility, battery storage facility, which would be a backup for the North Bloomfield substation. And they would have to connect that site to the North Bloomfield substation, either overhead or underground, directly with wires and conduit. They would have to cross the brook and the gorge. From my perspective, it is a totally inappropriate location. It's an R40 zone. It's an agricultural site. It's a rural site. We do not know the long-term effects of these battery storage facilities. We do know that they do create a hum. We do know that they present certain fire hazards depending on the battery types that are used. The one that's going in on Toby Road uses a very safe form of battery that is not inclined to catch on fire. But those are significant concerns, and it's a use, in our opinion, that is just totally out of scale and inappropriate for the location, and is one that we hope to mobilize significant support for opposing it when and if it does get to the siting council. We will be afforded a formal opportunity to comment on it, and we're trying to determine now how much direct impact we can have on its design, location, buffering, screening, if in fact the siting council does decide to approve it. But we do not have a yay or nay on it. The siting council has the ultimate yay or nay. But it's
Bring the
concerning.
cows.
Okay,
Say
well,
again?
Can we
actually,
bring the cows?
okay, hang on, I'm gonna control here. I'm gonna control. Okay, I'm gonna call on Councilor Merritt, and then I'm gonna call on Bob, and then we'll see who else, and then I have some comments as well.
This has been around for 5 years.
It's back.
No.
It's back.
Oh, it went away and then came back? Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
It's back, yeah.
But I know I hear it's back, but it isn't anything new. And when the guy that got the ice from Forster talked to the neighborhood about it, he said that it would be out of sight from Terriffill Road. It would be a long driveway in, but it would be more towards the highway next to the river. But I'm not sure that's true. I just, but there is quite a bit of depth to that lot. So if he could do that and you couldn't really see it from Terriffill Road, that would make it a lot more desirable from the neighborhood's point of view, and from the humming problem, to be further away from residential. But I do appreciate the sustained energy value of these batteries. I mean, it's something that when we only have things that produce energy during the day or when there's wind, you need to store it. And this would also allow you to store nuclear and use it. You know, it comes up on the wires and you could store it. And nuclear has a constant thing. It has to produce at night as well as daytime at a level rate. So you'd be able to store that for use during the day that way. So I haven't been against it because of that, but I'm interested to hear your comments about.
I just think it would set a terrible precedent for putting this use in a residential area. And I'm not, they may be able to screen it, but I don't think it'll be out of sight, out of mind. And have not been impressed with the storage. The two that we've had so far basically have 4 hours worth of storage. I mean, it's
Right.
not very
It's
long
4
term.
hours. It's 4 hours.
And 4 hours, just doesn't
Right.
impress me.
So I'm going to so Bob, and then I have some additional information. Go ahead, Bob.
Alternative sites. Also, I know that the South Windsor had quite a problem with
Can't hear you.
It's on, Bob.
Just get right close to the mic.
Okay. First question is, do they have alternative sites?
Still can't hear you.
He's asking if there are alternative sites.
Are there alternative sites to this? And also, South Windsor's had quite a problem with the batteries for surge at one of the substations, and the neighbors have really had a problem with
So just some information, other information. So this site is a very environmentally sensitive site, okay? The soils, the agricultural soils are what? Prime agricultural, as well as soils of statewide importance. So you've got agricultural land, that's good agricultural land. You're actually not too far from the Farmington River, which is a federally designated wild and scenic river. When they did with DEEP, the NDDB survey in terms of endangered species, 5 years in 2018, 2019, they found some things. And, they found some things, but they have to redo the survey. So that's of concern. And they're also going to have to get like the state archaeologist involved, because they're going to have to do a cultural resources survey because of the Native American archaeological record there. So it's very sensitive. It's proximate to the Griffin Brook, which is a tributary of the Farmington. I brought this up just to say, oh, this just popped up at the Resource Protection Subcommittee of the Lower Farmington River Salmon Brook Wild and Scenic Committee, because I'm one of Bloomfield's representatives on that. The Resource Protection Subcommittee was very concerned. Just again, because it's a very sensitive, environmentally sensitive site. I was surprised because I was alerted by John before this meeting because it's like this came up, and then, we'll put it on the agenda to discuss. I didn't even know about the Toby Road facility that apparently is a year along. And then this other one just came in, Robinson and Cole letterhead. So they're just giving us notice. They're going to the siting council. So Bloomfield's probably going to have 2 of these things, as it is, in sites that are zoned industrial and I think are more, reuse or, more appropriate use. They do talk about, the email that was shared with me. I wasn't I'm just going to say it. I wasn't real impressed by it because it really was kind of a cut and paste job, I think, on the part of this applicant. There were references to Killingly in it, and they talked about the site being industrial zoned, not residential. So I don't know, maybe they've got something planned, they've got another proposal for Killingly area. I don't know. But the purpose of this was just to make people aware. Stay tuned. The Wild and Scenic Committee is going to collect information, find out what they can in terms of, things to be things to consider, to be concerned about. But, on the face of it, if we were within, I don't think it's within a quarter mile of the river, but if we were, then you'd have federal involvement right off the bat.
I thought that's where they planned to put it, down very close to the highway, which would make it close to the river.
Yeah, well, then there may be federal there may be involvement because of that. Yeah,
Towards the neighborhood, so.
yeah. So, anyway, stay tuned. And, apologize, we may go a couple minutes late here because we started a couple minutes late. But, we just wanted people to be aware of that, Did you want to say something, David? I'm sorry. Okay. The rest I think will be fairly quick. I just wanted to say I had a nice introductory conversation with Dorothy Pizak of Sustainable CT. I am now going to be the point of contact, which she assures me is not much work. It's just somebody to send emails to. I invited her to come in next month to give a short presentation to us because just to give us an update on the Sustainable CT program. And there's lots of resources available to the town through Sustainable CT. So she'll talk to us about some of those things. So that is that. Eversource positioning vis-a-vis Pura. Do we want to talk about that at this point? We talked about potentially writing a letter to the governor, right? Just to encourage.
Well, initially, it was to encourage him to reappoint Marissa Gillette, but he has. And so she's got a 4-year term. There is another issue, which is the size of the agency. Currently 3 members. It could be 5, and I'm not clear. I mean, I want to ask some people who are more knowledgeable whether we want to advocate for 2 more people to be on the agency or not. But another aspect, and I don't think we want to talk about it tonight because we don't have time, but the other aspect of it is that the way I read it, Eversource, and you may have seen this in the news, is saying, I use a word like whining sometimes, but saying that they're going to pull back on their investment in the grid. They're not going to, build out the grid. They're not going to modernize the grid, which, by the way, is extremely important for good solar, to move ahead with solar. Because the regulatory environment in Connecticut is unfriendly, basically. That's not the word, they're uncooperative, unstable, whatever word they used, because they don't like her. And so, I think there's something that we should be doing. And also, by the way, nationally, 350 350.org is starting to look at the utility companies and saying that we need to basically mobilize against some of the utility companies' policies because they are really holding us back from moving ahead with renewable energy, and they seem to be like, they were calling them the kind of the, I don't know, like a hidden problem. And I'm like, I think they're right out in the open personally, but so, there's still an issue, and there's an issue with Eversource, and they're saying that Connecticut's worse than Mass, and where else do they? Mass and New Hampshire, I think, is where else. I don't know why they're saying that. I don't know if it's true, but so I think there's still an issue, and they wield a lot of power, quote. And also they'll threaten that rates go up, and they'll do all this other stuff, So, I mean, I think there's still work to be done. I don't know how we want to approach it, but that's the issue the way I see it.
So why don't we leave this on the agenda, in terms of old business? Because we may want to weigh in at some point, but once we have more information.
Yeah, it'll probably be another one where we have a presentation from somebody who's a little bit more, maybe Ian McDonald, who's been following a lot of the grid stuff and is pretty knowledgeable, and maybe could come and teach us a little bit more about it and what we should be concerned about.
Okay, sounds good. I think we're going to move on because I think in terms of ways to incentivize climate change investments, I think we've talked about that already today. And that makes reference to the POCD. So this was what Bob had submitted as a suggestion, so to be continued. In terms of announcements, I just want to remind people, there's a tree care workshop on May 18th. BBC has put that together for Trees for Bloomfield. They're kind of driving it. Our photo contest opens on June 1st. Here's the flyer. Very nice. And the website will go, the website for registration will go live that day. So I'll give you one to take home, okay? And let's see. Oh, and then again, BBC for Trees for Bloomfield is organizing, they've done this for several years, it's really more a Father's Day hike, but it's in Farmington River Park on June 15th. And it's a really cool event because they're gonna have a geologist, they're gonna have a tree person, and they're gonna have Lucy Ear, who is my alternate on Wild and Scenic, to talk about the river. So that looks like a fun event if if you have time to do it. And see, and the final announcement I have, and then I'll be quiet, let us wrap up. I actually gave, on behalf of Trees for Bloomfield, a presentation to the Hartford Tree Advisory Council last week. And they have heard a lot about Trees for Bloomfield. So they reached out and wanted a short presentation, which I provided. They were very happy. They were very impressed with the things that we'd done kind of on a grassroots basis with town support. They were very impressed that we had department support and council support on this. And it's funny because before I got to the last slide, their question was, well, have you ever considered becoming a Tree City USA? And I'm like, your timing is perfect. That's on the agenda for this year. So just wanted to let folks know about that. And it was interesting to hear about the resources they have because this was in the paper. They got a $6 million grant for trees. And it's a 4-year grant, $1.5 million a year. And they're going to be planting, I mean, they're doing a lot with it, including hiring somebody to do some work. But they're planting 1,700 trees in total over the 4-year period. And the way they're going to, do it is they're going to have people sign up for a free tree. It's kind of like a Trees for Free program. And basically everyone signs up all at once and then the trees get planted over 4 years. But it was interesting to hear the work they were doing because it gave me ideas for the kinds of things we'd be doing as a Tree City USA in terms of maintaining the town's trees. They're doing things like treating elms for Dutch elm, injecting them with the fungicide. They're treating their remaining ash trees. They're looking at next year starting to treat the beeches for beech leaf disease. So what they're doing is they're more notable, larger trees. They're taking steps to protect those trees. And that's part of what they're doing because they're certified as a Tree City. So those are the kinds of things we can be doing as well. And I apologize, we're 5 over at this point. Nancy, do you want to say anything about I'm jumping around here. Do you want to say anything about the legislative session, which ended yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a short report because they mostly didn't pass anything that we were following. And one that they did pass, and so I do see that I may have misspoken in the last meeting or else it got translated into the minutes wrong, which I noticed after we passed the minutes. They did pass the bill to limit the use of PFAS in certain products. Kind of a limited selection, and maybe they'll build on it in the future. So that did pass. They passed the recommendations of the Invasive Plants Council. And I think what they did was just formalize the prevention of the sale, et cetera, of a bunch of the things that were already probably considered invasive. So it's not, anything that's earth shattering, but it's good because they can't still be sold. And that's it. I mean, they didn't pass anything really on solar, although it's possible that there's some stuff in the budget. And actually I had one question because it doesn't show as passed, but it looks also somewhere that they may have done something with the solar projects bill 5232, but the information on the website is kind of confusing. I saw something where the Senate passed something, but yet it's not really listed as a passed bill. So I'm not positive about that one. Anything really this year that had to do with money out, any appropriations, because they didn't want to change the budget. They have a 2-year budget.
Oh, they have too much money, so they want to.
No, they don't want to, they didn't want to open up this year 2 of the budget though. That's really kind of like, it killed a lot of conversation, unfortunately. So yeah, the rodenticides bill died along with all the raptors that will die because of it. The neonicotinoids bill went nowhere. Yeah, so nothing on heat pumps. So it was unfortunately very disappointing year as far as anything that would be helpful to meeting the state's own goal, to be net zero or whatever it thinks it's going to be in 10 years or less. So that's it. It's a wrap till next year.
Excellent. And the very last thing on the agenda, I want to leave it on here is, Bob's brought up that Seabury is happy to host people to see their composting operation. And I have a nice sample jar courtesy of Bob of the product. So I just want to leave it on here in case we want to try to do something collectively together. Is there any time expiration on this offer, Bob? Okay,
They're always
Okay.
happy to-
There's always new compost.
okay, good.
Smell bad?
No, you want to smell it? It doesn't smell like anything, which is good, Yep. So, let's see. Jessica, Zeline, do you have any last words? Do you want to say anything?
I went to the sustainability fair in Simsbury last weekend.
Yep.
And it was very good. There are a lot of different organizations there. And I made contact with, they have a sustainability committee. And I told them about our visit to the recycling plant. And they want to do it too. So I forwarded the contact information to them. And the impression I got from several people in Simsbury committees was that they think Bloomfield is just so progressive on all the environmental issues and sustainability, and that we were sort of like a role model. So that was good to hear. It was a great event.
Yeah. And
Windsor thinks so
Yep.
as well.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. We kind of got through it. Anything else? Not for tonight. All right. Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn at 6:09? Yep.
So moved.
You have a congratulations, John.
You got promoted. Congratulations. You're it.
Better or for worse.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
So happy about it.
So we are adjourned and John's been promoted. So he is the director. Excellent.